Okay, I am determined to get the Wheel of Time intro done in one, because I can do it. I know it. I don't want this to be a repeat of the last two times where I knew it, and then I kept stumbling. No, I'm gonna get it first time. The Wheel of Time turns and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the Third Age by some, an age long past, an age yet to come, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. I did it! Look at that! I'm the best! Woo! Okay, so book 10 of The Wheel of Time, Crossroads of Twilight. Let me turn on the brightness so we don't get a repeat of all the other times where I set it up. Come on. There we go. Yep, it's finished. There we go. Book 10 of The Wheel of Time. We're almost near the end now. Damn, it's been 2 years, I think, since I've been reading The Wheel of Time. And it feels so weird to be nearing the end. And speaking of the end, Crossroads of Twilight marks the end, apparently, of the slog. So that's a relief, because I'm not gonna lie, when listening to The Crossroads of Twilight, this was essentially a filler book. It wasn't bad, but like nothing really happened either. Like, it's nicely written, but once again, Robert Jordan has like a 3-hour long prologue. Like, what the hell? Honestly, Robert Jordan's prologues are so confusing to me, because it's like they're 3 hours long, and most of the time it's not even about the real story. It's about like a side character or another side character. They get introduced to do a thing and then they disappear for, I don't know, however many books. Sometimes they never even come back. Sometimes they are just there for the one book and then they either die or they disappear. Now, another author that does this, and I think does it in a much better way, is George R.R. Martin. When you read the A Song of Ice and Fire books, the same thing can be applied to his epilogues. Some of the characters that are introduced are just there for like a mini short story that starts and ends the book. For example, in A Feast for Crows, that book opens with a guy that is in love with a girl, and this girl basically sleeps around with the entire town, but she won't sleep with him. Now, the thing is, I might be mixing this up with the epilogue to A Dance with Dragons or A Feast for Crows. Basically, there's another story that's very similar about a guy that's in love with this girl and he wants to elope with her, but he works in the Citadel, and he's stealing stuff from the Citadel, but he also gets killed by a faceless man. And then at the end of, I think, of A Dance with Dragons or A Feast for Crows, but then he shows up again and you're just like, wait, didn't he die? What? And then you discover that it's a faceless man with the appearance of that same guy. That, I think, is a very good way to do a prologue and an epilogue. But with Robert Jordan, boy, does he love talking about this person and then that person, and then they go to Kyrian and then they go to Samodian and blah blah blodian and la 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 la. Honestly, it's a lot. And the thing is, I can give it props for world building, because it's Robert Jordan really making his world feel lived in, with different characters with different names, and they all have different roles and such, and every person has a small or big part. It feels very much like mythology or history, so I'll give it props for that. But at the same time, when it comes to a narrative and trying to follow the narrative, specifically for a first-time reader, God, it's a lot. It's too much. I've had people in my life come up to me and say that The Lord of the Rings is too hard to follow, and boy, if they think The Lord of the Rings is hard to follow, they don't know anything about Wheel of Time. So, similar to some of the previous Wheel of Time book reviews, we're going to go to the wiki to look at the plot summary, because maybe that will jog my memory about things that happen, because so far, I remember, like, the vague outline of things that happen, but for the most part, this book is pretty forgettable. Crossroads of Twilight, abbreviated to COT. Again, what is it with the wiki and these weird abbreviations? No one calls it COT. It's the 10th book in the Wheel of Time series. It was published by Tor Books and released on January 7th, 2003. Upon its release, it immediately rose to the #1 position on the New York Times hardcover fiction bestseller list, making it the third Wheel of Time book to reach the #1 position on the list. It remained on the list for the next 3 months. It is 846 pages long. Really, because it felt like much, much longer. Plot introduction. Crossroads of Twilight consists of a prologue. Yeah, we just talked about it. We know how long this prologue is. 30 chapters and an epilogue. The funny thing, though, is that the prologue is super long, but the epilogue is tiny. Like, when you look at the timings and the listings of the chapters in the audiobook, you see that the epilogue is like 2.5 minutes long. Like, that's a really short epilogue. In a way, and I'm joking when I say this, it feels like Robert Jordan loved to waffle in the prologue, and then he got to the end of the book and was just like, yeah, no, I'm done now, let's just wrap this shit up. Many of the events of Crossroads of Twilight take place simultaneously with the events of the previous book, Winter's Heart, which in a lot of ways makes sense, specifically with Perrin's arc, and also it does kind of showcase the reasons to why Rand isn't in the book that much. For all of you that are new around here, Rand is my favorite character. I love Rand POV chapters. They're the most interesting. That's where the heart and the meat of the story is for me. And so seeing that he's not not really in this book is a bit of a downer for me. And also, I thought he would have been in a tiny bit more considering what they did at the end of the last book where they cleansed the one power. But we'll get to that, I'm jumping ahead. Perrin Bara continues to rescue his wife Fail Bashir, kidnapped by the Shaida Eel, even resorting to torturing prisoners for information. In addition, Perrin is approached with a suggestion of alliance with the Seanchan, at least on a temporary basis to defeat the Shaida. So, Perrin's chunk of the book I like to call Perrin and the Quest for Aiel, or the Search for Aiel, whatever Star Trek reference thing. For the most part, that's pretty much all Perrin does in the book, is just like, I need to find Fail. Berlain, stop flirting with me. I need to find my wife. I miss my wife. I want to be with my wife. I want to hug her and kiss her and snuggle her. And that's kind of all Perrin is resorted to in this book, is just like, I love my wife. I want my wife. Where's my wife? And that's happened for the past, like, 2 books now. Like, when he shows up in book 6... Is that the one with Do Might Wells, or is that 7? Basically, when Perrin was like super awesome and cool was during the Do Might Well stuff. After that, he's pretty much just been, Fail, my wife, I love you. Let's be together, my wife. That being said, though, the segment in this book where Perrin is torturing the prisoners and he's looking for information about Fail's whereabouts, he's disgusted and sickened with himself at the actions and the lengths he went to. And then he talks to Elias, and there's an absolutely amazing quote from Elias. I can't find it, but basically it's something along the lines of Elias going, Perrin, you hated what you did because it's not really you. And at the end of the day, you will like come to learn to forgive yourself because something. You all know what I'm talking about. It's genuinely a fantastic line, and I love that conversation between Perrin and Elias. But for the most part, yeah, Perrin's whole bit in this book is him just going, where's my wife? I want my wife. Let me find my wife. Mat Cauthon continues trying to shape the Seanchan-controlled territory whilst courting Tuon, the daughter of the Nine Moons, the woman whom he has kidnapped and who, it has been prophesied, will become his wife. Mat discovers that Tuon, as a potential sul'dam, can be taught to channel the One Power. So the stuff with Mat and Tuon is okay, I think. Like, Mat's POV chapters are interesting, but also it's kind of a thing where this is a very slow burn romance in terms of, romance, I say. There's not really been much of a romance apart from Mat goes, this woman is supposed to be my wife, and he said that 3 times, and now they're just like, you need her to complete the ceremony by saying it back 3 times. Yeah, but other than that, there's not really been too much to Mat's story in the past 2 books. It's kind of like, he's met his future wife, and that's kind of it, and I don't know, I wish there was a little bit more. That's mainly the problem I have with this book, is that, like, the ideas are interesting, but then it's kind of like, they don't really go anywhere yet. It's Robert Jordan spinning his wheels and twiddling his thumbs just like, I need to drag this out for another book just because. Oh yeah, also, Tywin is killed, so, at least Mat can be vindicated, I guess, in terms of... She basically assaulted him. Elaine Trakan continues trying to solidify her hold on the Lion Throne of Andor. It's a bit brief. I mean, that is essentially what she does in this book. She is just kind of there like, I am Queen of Andor and blah, blah, blah. We need to do this, and that. I'm not gonna lie, all I really remember with Elaine is that her and Aviendha are together and that Elaine's pregnant, right? I'm not, like, mistaking that. Elaine is the one that's pregnant, not Aviendha. Or is Min pregnant? I don't remember which one is pregnant. I'm pretty sure it's Elaine that's pregnant, though. Yeah, I don't really have much to say on that. A lot of that stuff is just, like, escaped from my brain, and this didn't trigger anything. So let's just go on to my boy, Rand al'Thor, the Dragon Reborn, rests after the ordeal of cleansing the One Power. He sends Davram Bashir, Logain Ablar, and Loial to negotiate a truce with the Seanchan. They return at the end of the book to tell him that the Seanchan have accepted the truce, but demand the presence of the Dragon Reborn. So yeah, Rand isn't really in this book that much. He's here, like, every so often. There'll be, like, a chapter and he'll jump to his POV and it's like, Rand doing this, this, and this. One thing about Rand's storyline, which I'm surprised isn't mentioned on the wiki, is the fact that Rand decrees, or at least he suggests the idea that the Red Ajah must bond with someone from the Black Tower, which is basically all the male channelers. You know, Mazrim Taim's lot. Like, the Red Ajah have to have a Black Tower warder, which is interesting because it's like the Red Ajah absolutely despise men, and as a means to control the power of the men of the Black Tower, they're like combined together. That's kind of an interesting idea, and I feel like it's not a dumb idea, or at least it has the potential to not be a dumb idea, but also it could go disastrously wrong. But I kind of like the idea of the extreme man-hating Red Ajah, the ones that absolutely despise male channelers, have to now be bonded with male channelers. It adds to the whole yin-yang idea that's in the Wheel of Time book series. Is it the sigil of the dragon, or is it the sigil of the White Tower that is basically the yin and yang symbol? The idea of balance and harmony is really cool, and I like that Robert Jordan has metaphorically done that now with the Black Tower and the Red Ajah. But yeah, another thing though with Rand that I thought was kind of interesting, and one of the reasons as to why I was confused as to why he wasn't in the book that much, and it was because this book doesn't really deal with the repercussions of what he and Nynaeve and Who else did it at the end of the last book? Was it Avienda? It wasn't Avienda, it was Egwene. Basically, they cleansed the male half of the One Power, so now they can safely channel and use it. But also, an interesting thing is that Rand is still insane. At the end of the book, he's like talking to himself, like plotting the idea of the Seanchan and what he's going to say and do to them. And then you hear Lews Therin in the back of his brain. You're just like, so Rand is still going insane, right? Or is it supposed to be that they didn't properly cleanse the One Power? They only thought they did or something. I don't know. It's cool. It's interesting. I want to see where this goes. That's what I found with the Wheel of Time book series. When it gets to things that I don't care about, I have to trudge through it because I know at the end of the day, the Rand stuff is interesting. I'm here for Rand's story. And speaking of a storyline that's all set up and not much payoff, Egwene's storyline. So Egwene leads the rebel Aes Sedai in maintaining the siege of Tar Valon. At the end of the book, she is captured by agents of the White Tower. Yeah, that's kind of it. A lot of it is just like, alright, we're going to prepare for battle, okay? We have this camp at the base of the White Tower. We're ready to fight. We're planning everything and stuff. There's a bunch of squabbling amongst the sisters of just like, oh, this brown servant is serving a green, or this green is serving a yellow. How dare they? I will say that an interesting thing is that they do get visited by a Myrddraal, which apparently has a weird aura in the sense of like it's a Myrddraal, but it's like 100 times more terrifying and such. And in the other reviews that I've seen, a lot of them have mentioned the fact that this is pretty much like the manifestation of Ba'alzamon in the real world. Like, he can't leave Shayol Ghul, or at least he can't leave Shayol Ghul for too long, so he possesses a Myrddraal, and he's in the shape and form of a Fade, which is why his presence is like 100 times more scary than an actual normal Fade, which is still pretty terrifying. But in the text, at least from what I remember listening, I don't remember them explicitly saying, oh yeah, this is like Ba'alzamon in disguise or something. But if it is, that is cool, because like finally we get some presence of the Dark One. I want more of the Dark One. Like, I'm pretty tired and bored of the Forsaken now. It's like, I just want to see the Dark One kill fools, be terrifying, be menacing, be big. But I feel like we're getting there now. Like, that taste of that super Myrddraal, we'll call it the super Myrddraal or something, but that taste of that presence of just like, oh, it was really terrifying. Everyone was like shocked because it was a Fade, but it felt off and wrong and like even more terrifying. That's cool. That's what I like. I'm looking forward to getting to the last battle, to getting to the conflict of Rand and Ba'alzamon and such. And from what I've been told, this book is the end of the slog. Book 11 is really cool. But unfortunately, I am not going straight into Book 11. I'm going to be taking a break from Wheel of Time just for a month because I want to reread Dune. What can I say? The spice in the deserts of Arrakis is calling to me. My road leads into the desert. I can see it. So yeah, that should be fun. So I'll be back with another Wheel of Time book review soon. Hopefully not too long. Hopefully I'll be back by like the end of March. And yeah, just quickly reflecting on the Wheel of Time so far. It's weird. I'm near the end now. I'm 4 books away. And it's going to be really weird because also the next book is Robert Jordan's last book. Because he passed away and obviously Brandon Sanderson has to finish it off. So I'm curious to see how the writing style is going to change. I'm also curious to see how Robert Jordan ends the next book and whether or not he was on like a massive roll, because apparently he wasn't. It's going to be really interesting. I will say though, I think it is due for me to go on a little break from the Wheel of Time just because it is a lot. I've been with this series for like 2 years now. Every day it's Michael Kramer, Kate Redding in my ears and such. And whilst I love it, at the same time, it is a lot. But those are just my thoughts on Crossroads of Twilight. The slog is finally done, or so I'm told. In my eyes, it was pretty much just filler. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe from social media, all the good stuff. Until we meet again, see you guys next time.